So let's see when the attendees are going to flock in. Yeah, that seems to work perfect. So I see there's people flocking in already. Hello, welcome. We're a couple of minutes early here, so I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to flock in, and then we're going to start on time. So I guess it's about time, 5 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here and for your interest in this webinar today. So we are going today present you a little something about robotic process automation as a key building block in your digital transformation strategy for businesses. This is what we are going to present for you today. When I say we, that means Adastra. And before we get to the actual points and the aspects that we want to talk about, let me tell you what's in store for you. So what we're not going to do is try to replicate Wikipedia and give you some basic facts that you could easily just read up on yourself. The idea for today is basically that we try to share some of our experiences and show you what's happening out there in the real world in terms of project setups and RPA use cases, best practices, things that prove to work, things that are typical pitfalls, to give you an idea of what's already going on and maybe also adapt certain strategies for yourself or engage in their journey of digital transformation with robotic process automation. My name is David Frickel. I'm part of the Adastra communications team, and I'm going to be moderating today. So if everything is not working with the technology side of things, that's my fault. Complain to me. With me here today as well are my colleagues Merve Cim and Chiheb Boukhit from Adastra Germany, who are both RPA analysts with us and basically involved in a lot of these RPA projects that we're doing. Also part of the panel today is my colleague Peter Pavlov from Adastra Bulgaria. And Peter has a lot of experience under his belt as a delivery manager and just knows how to run projects the way they're supposed to be run and make sure that nothing goes awry. And that at the end of the day, the thing is producing the results everyone is expecting. So he's very experienced especially in the area of RPA, and can share a wealth of knowledge in that regard when it comes to the project side of things on how to run these things and what is happening in the industry. Okay, so how are we going to do this today? We would like to avoid to have this as kind of a lecture where we just talk and talk and you're just passively sitting there. Because of that, basically, we've decided to break up the session into 3 parts. So we're going to start with a bit of input, and then there's going to be a first Q&A session where we give you the opportunity to ask questions and hopefully get a short discussion going and maybe answer a couple of those questions. If you want to chime in and do something, there is a Q&A module implemented here in Zoom. So if you want to ask a question, I would kindly ask you to use the Q&A feature here in Zoom to just type in your question, and that way we can collect them. And depending on how many questions are actually flocking in, hopefully come to most of them. And then there's going to be a second part of some aspects that we want to talk about. And we're going to close out with another round of questions and answers and another round of hopefully lively discussion to get everybody involved. There's a lot of people here right now, so we can basically make use of that and actually get into exchange of what's relevant for you as well. So once again, if you have a question, please use the Q&A feature here. And if we can't get through all of them in the middle of this, then there's going to be a second round in the end and a discussion afterwards. So if you want to stick around, please make sure to do that. Also, just ahead of time, we're going to ask you to provide feedback at the end. So if you would be kind enough to drop us a couple of work through our little feedback questionnaire, I'll drop the link later later in the webinar when we close towards the end, that you can leave us some feedback. That would be very valuable for us, just as a heads up right from the get-go. And well, before I hand it over now to the panel, just let me say a couple of sentences about Adastra as such, because I don't know that everybody who's here has a good understanding or knows us very well as of right now. So let's just a couple of sentences about us. So what we are doing basically is we are a consulting company that focuses on helping our clients generating value from their data as an information consulting company basically. And we do that in various aspects, as you can see, in various technical aspects. So either by providing solid infrastructure in the backend, making sure that the data is clean and ready to use, and there is a good solid foundation to do analysis on, but also in other cases do the analysis as such when it comes to topics like visualization then, or reporting, dashboarding, things like that. That's also something we're doing. And robotic process automation is for sure something that has gained a lot of traction, not only in the market, but also is a very relevant topic for us where we've already got a lot of experience in. So we thought that talking about robotic process automation is actually not a bad idea, because it gains steam in the market. There are more and more questions coming in, and also judging from the attendees today, that might not have been such a bad idea. So hopefully we can answer a couple of those questions on robotic process automation today. And for that, we're going to start with giving a short overview of what RPA actually is and in which context it makes sense to use. And for that, I would kindly ask my colleague Merve to take it away here and start us with the webinar here.
Thank you, David, for this nice introduction. My name is Merve Cim, and I'm an RPA analyst at Adastra, Germany. I believe most of our audiences have already some experience with robotic process automation, but for our audiences who are new to this topic and who want to get the first insights about this topic, I would like to give a brief introduction to robotic process automation, what it is, and why is it such an essential step of digital transformation journeys. So let us begin with digital transformation, because it's becoming more and more a major focus for businesses. So digital transformation started first with digitization. So the data was transformed into a digital format. And over time, more and more technologies evolved in order to sort, to process, to analyze the digital data. And among those technologies, robotic process automation, or shortly RPA, has been one of the most rapidly growing fields in the last years. So what is it actually? So what is robotic process automation? Well, shortly, RPA is a technology that uses software robots to automate business processes which are based on rule-based structured and clearly defined tasks. So shortly, robotic process automation or robots mimic humans on an existing user interface to perform a business process. So in general, any business process, which is based on this repetitive, rule-based, high volume and time-consuming tasks, and the processes which do not have many exceptions are good candidates for RPA. Of course, in addition to this criteria, it's important to assess the return on investment in order to determine whether a process is applicable for RPA or not. So in general, there must be a meaningful return for the organization from automating a process. And if you look at this criteria like repetitive, rule-based, time-consuming, I think it's not very difficult for us to come up with examples when we need RPA. We all are familiar with such processes. We either have to perform such processes ourselves, or we observe these processes in our organizations. The most common use cases of RPA are like migrating data from one system to another one, or validating data between two different systems, or reading out emails, extracting attachments and storing them systematically, and this kind of examples that we are all familiar with. Therefore, none of these examples are industry specific. So RPA is not an industry or task specific technology. And therefore, the benefits of RPA are also not industry specific. There are really a lot of potential benefits from RPA, and let us briefly discuss what they are. First of all, you improve your process quality by eliminating the human errors from your process. So you sustain a better accuracy and consistency in your processes. And secondly, you remove the manual effort from your employees. That means you have an increased efficiency, and your employees can focus more on creative, innovative solutions that bring more added value to your business. And of course, computers, robots can work much faster than humans. That means you increase your speed and therefore have an improved customer experience. And they don't only work faster, but they can only work non-stop. That means you get your work 24/7 done, and in case of changing market demands, you can scale up or down your processes, your business very easily. And most importantly, all these benefits come at very low implementation costs, because RPA uses your existing IT infrastructure and the existing IT systems, because automation takes place at the interface level. Therefore, you can implement RPA in a very short term and in a very inexpensive way. Therefore, it doesn't matter where actually you stand in your digital transformation journey. It might be that you are at the beginning of your digital transformation journey and you don't know where to start. Let's say you don't want to invest in initial effort. You want to get very quick returns to your investment. And in this case, RPA might be a good strategy for your business. Or let's say you are far in your digital transformation journey and you've been using really advanced digital solutions for a while, but because of changing market demand conditions, such as the current situation, you are looking for very fast solutions which bring high efficiency and quick returns to your company. And also in this case, RPA might be a good solution for you. Therefore, to sum up very shortly, if you are looking for very quick returns with very low implementation costs and implementation effort, you should really consider RPA for your organization.
Thank you, Merve, for the first overview. That was quite delightful. And then we're going to hand it over to our second panelist, who is going to talk about an aspect that doesn't get always the attention that it deserves when it comes to RPA. It's a critical factor in every business, but not everybody thinks of that first when basically talking about RPA as a strategy. So I would invite my colleague Chiheb here to talk about business continuity and in robotic process automation.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Merve, for the enlightening explanation. So my name is Chiheb Boukhit. I'm a process analyst at Adastra and especially active in the RPA subject. And today I'll tell you a little bit about the importance of RPA in the business continuity. So first of all, what I'd like to say, which is very important, is that for a bot, implementing a bot means handing over the process to the bot. So basically, we hand over the whole process to a bot, and we have to consider the requirement for that. So the bot will continue executing the process, of course, if we define that correctly. And to ensure this, we can help you services and expertise to go through that digitalization step. So one important thing in this case is to define specifically what the bot will do. So once we define that and do that really well, we can actually be independent from many contexts that is in the business. For example, we become not bonded anymore by the time, because the bot can be executed at any time possible. And also, which is also a benefit to the business continuity, would be to execute the processes during night. For example, if I have a huge demand on a specific database during the day, and I bring the execution of a process related to that database during the night, then I will basically reduce the burden of the process and many other tasks on that specific business system. So basically, it helps to, first of all, to ensure that the bot will run independently from time or manual effort or people executing the whole process, but also it will increase the efficiency of the process and help reduce the burden on the business systems. So in this case, I would say the only exhausting part would be, as I said in the beginning, to define the specific points that will help guide the bot and define the bot on how it will be executed. So basically, one has to define the time where it will be executed, if it will be executed automatically or manually, depending on the process and the context and the business goal, of course. And that could actually help even in a critical situation like in pandemics to help the employees dedicate their time on tasks that have a higher priority, but keep the other tasks which have less priority continue, and there ensure all the process tasks and workflow and businesses to continue during a crisis in a company. So this helps basically ensure, as I said, the business continuity, but also give a benefit to that whole process and workflow. Also, one additional point which we don't really talk about is basically that our bot can actually help through notifications, sending emails to raise awareness or notify employees about a specific process if, for example, it hasn't been executed, or a reminder to a specific task. So even in crisis situation, one can have a backup plan to maintain the communication inside a company. When I said backup plan, this is also another point which we have to talk about. Basically, once we define the points necessary to the bot, one should always consider a backup plan, because it's good that we enforce the business continuity, but to ensure also the business continuity, one should have a backup plan. For example, let's assume that I have a bot which is being executed on a machine. And for unknown reason, that specific machine is not running anymore. So the bot might not start eventually. So one should have, in this case, defined a backup plan, which can be, depending from the process and the infrastructure set in the company, it might be different. For example, I could manually restart the bot on a personal computer, of the company, or I could have a backup machine, which would start basically the bot as a backup once it doesn't, for example, receive notification from the first bot that it did run. If it doesn't receive a notification, the first bot did not run, and then I can run as a backup bot. And so in this case, we can see that we have really to cover all the points and define them really specifically and meticulously at the beginning to ensure, of course, a backup plan, business continuity, but not only that, to also improve it actually and give it benefits and reduce the workload. And that is really something helpful, and from what we learned from experience, a best practice for the implementation of bot. So implementing a bot and ensuring such business continuity is, of course, really good and helpful. But one has to consider the requirements of needed to implement a bot. And that is one part that is really important to consider.
Exactly. Thank you, Chiheb, for the comments about the business continuity aspects, which I still think are sometimes neglected when we talk about RPA. So I think it was a good overview here. And since you already mentioned the requirements necessary to basically establish an RPA process, let's get into details here. And Merve will gladly do that. Merve, if you would.
Yes, thanks again. Well, of course, before starting an RPA journey, there are a lot of factors that you should consider. But first of all, the most crucial thing is to have an RPA awareness. So at an early stage, you really should involve all your employees and clarify them what exactly RPA is and what are the benefits of it. Because all employees have to really work closely and, work in collaboration in an RPA project. And therefore, you really have to rely on them and make sure that they understand what RPA brings to their organization. Well, there are like common misperceptions about RPA. Some people fear that bots are replacing humans, or because of the terms robotics, robots, people think about physical robots or about the technology itself, capabilities. They're not sure if that's a synonym for artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of misperceptions that we're seeing in our experience with our clients. Therefore, all these misperceptions have to be clarified and eliminated at the beginning. And yeah, the important thing is to get employees on your side at the beginning. And it's also important to clarify what changes RPA brings to the organization, because we talked in the first part that it eliminates manual effort. Therefore, yeah, you change the work structure or the definition, the tasks of some of your employees. Therefore, you also have to clarify what changes this bring to the organization. They should all be organized with a clear change management. The next topic is related to how to implement RPA. And there are different approaches in terms of implementing RPA and related to organizational structure within the business. Yes, 3 different approaches. The first one is a centralized approach in which you have a center of excellence with very distinctive roles such as process analysis or business units that explain the process, the business process. You have your developers, the solution architects who are responsible for IT infrastructure and so on. So you have very distinct roles in your center of excellence that allows you, of course, to accelerate the RPA project very fast, very easily. And since the development is done by RPA specialists, you can really automate complex tasks, complex processes in this way. The other second approach is to have a decentralized method in which the business users are the citizen developers, the so-called citizen developers, and they take over the development of the bots themselves. So they are not only the process users, but they automate their own processes themselves. And this is, of course, this approach has its advantages and disadvantages. It has the advantage that you can start your pilot projects very easily, very quickly. You, of course, have to train your employees initially. They should have the right skills to choose the right processes to automate, and they should also have the skills to accomplish the automation. These are the advantages, that you can begin very fast. But on the other hand, since the automation is not done by professional developers, you cannot really automate very complex business processes in this way. And also, it becomes more difficult to stick to governance as you accumulate more and more bots. And the third approach in implementing RPA is to use a hybrid version of these two methods. Namely, you have a centralized center of excellence who are taking care of support, for example, and take care of also automation of complex business processes. But the business users, process users, also automate some of the non-complex processes. So we saw that there are very different roles attached to an RPA project, like process analyst, developer, solution architecture. And of course, all these roles and responsibilities have to be clarified in detail. And the next step is to get your IT infrastructure ready. We previously talked that RPA does not really change your existing IT infrastructure. Therefore, you don't need to make really dramatic changes to your IT infrastructure, but depending on the bots you're using, whether they will be used in attended mode, which are taking place in the runners of your computers of your employees, or unattended mode, that means they are run in separate machines. So you should get your IT infrastructure ready in this time. And of course, choosing the right automation vendor for your needs. That depends, of course, on the needs of your organization, whether you want to focus put your focus more on the process mining side or on automation, or whether you need more advanced technologies like cognitive automation. So depending on your needs, it's important then to choose the right vendor for you. And most importantly, last but not least, you really have to clarify and determine the right governance for your organization. That means consider all the steps of your software development. So start from process analysis, process mining, go through development, testing, and delivering a bot, deploying a bot. So all these steps, what you have to do in all these steps have to be clarified carefully, and all the documentation to each of these steps. For example, how to choose a process for automation, or how to describe a process with a process definition document, or how to document or protocol the steps of your development in a technical design document. So all the steps and documents have to be clarified very carefully. So to sum up very shortly, we saw that there are very different models of implementing RPA. It depends which, to decide which model suits you best, you really need to analyze the needs of your company. Therefore, it's really important to consult RPA analysts and RPA experts to gain from their experiences, to avoid the common pitfalls and benefit from their experience, to start with the right governance model. Because if you start with the right governance model, you can also change your implementation model depending on your changing needs. It might be that you become very easy with very easy processes, very small, on a very small scale. But then over time, you realize that it's working very successfully and you want to extend your project. And if you start with a right governance, it becomes very easy to scale up your project and also change the project depending on your needs.
Exactly. Thank you, Merve, for that. And with that, as I announced in the very beginning, we're basically at a point where we would like to get you involved a little bit. So if you guys have any questions so far, or some aspect of this that is of special interest to you, go ahead and post them. There was basically a content unrelated question early regarding whether or not the recording of this is going to be shared. And yes, you're going to get a follow-up link. Basically, when we with an email after the webinar, there's going to be a link where you can access this and share it with your connections and revisit this, see if we did a good job or not. And also, there's going to be things are going to be posted on our websites, respective websites as well. So the Adastra Germany website and the Adastra Bulgaria website. So whenever you want to revisit this, there's going to be an opportunity to do that for sure. Are there any questions in regards to content so far, in terms of what we heard so far, or other aspects of RPA that might be interesting? Then use the Q&A. Let me just see. Okay, there are a couple of questions flocking in. I would start with a question that is basically coming up in other contexts as well. Basically, is our businesses like too small for RPA? Does it even make sense for me at all? Is it something that only makes sense if I'm a super mature, super large business, or is there use cases for smaller businesses as well? So guys, if you want to shortly speak to that.
Yeah, allow me to do that. Hi. So to answer this question, there is not a simple yes or no. It's not black or white. Although size matters when you would like to mine more processes within the organization, that doesn't necessarily exclude your business as a qualified one for adopting RPA. So you can always start with something small, like Merve already pointed out. See how it goes with you, whether you are able to define the processes that can be automated. See the first results, get the grip, get the feeling for the benefits of it, and then I'm pretty sure from that point onwards, it's more like a chain reaction. You start to find more and more places within your organization where automation is applicable. And therefore, yeah, I would say size matters only when you want to identify a lot of processes that need automation. But other than that, I'm pretty sure it's even in the small businesses that there are plenty of opportunities to automate your daily business.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Peter. There is another question coming in that asks for a to give an overview of strategies to implement RPA. And actually, I think we're going to talk about that a little later on, where we specifically talk about a methodology to actually implement a good RPA process the right way. So that's going to be part of what we're going to talk about in the second session, or second part of the session. So we'll postpone that for a little. And since Peter already mentioned basically that there is, yeah, the size of the business is dependent on, or the RPA process is dependent on how much you actually want, how many processes you want to have, and already enlightened that there is different setups in businesses. I would say that it's a good point to, since there are no like urgent questions popping in right now that we can answer, moving on to the next part of this, and that is basically giving you a bit of insight in what is already happening out there in the world. So what is actually going on in project environments, and what are the aspects here that already are in place and can be expanded down the road. And Peter has, as I said in the beginning, has a lot of experience in delivering these RPA projects as well. So Peter, if you want to shed some light on what's going on out there, that would be really helpful, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, David. Well, based on my experience so far, I'll try to outline the picture seen from my eyes. RPA is not a new technology. It's definitely been out there for some years, but in the past probably couple of years, it drew a lot of attention. Gartner recently pronounced RPA as one of the top 10 strategic technologies in 2020. So yeah, that also helped increase the hype in this direction. Global market leading companies, they're already testing it out for over 2 years. How it usually starts with the rest of the companies, it's you insert this idea, you want to test it out from the small bits. So it's usually either a pilot or proof of concept that you would like to start, see how it works, like already answered in one of the questions during the Q&A session. You see how it works for you, and once you get the feeling that it's really useful and applicable to your business, you move on to set up a project where you would like to gather the proper people within your organization, establish the task force. Then you name your task force with a specific name, like Center of Excellence, like Merve said, or you can call it a digital or virtual delivery center. Doesn't really matter. The idea is that you have this centralized knowledge where your business users can come to and be consulted about what and how processes can be automated. Once you have that in place, you can hit you can step onto the throttle and gain some more speed, spread the word, let the rest of the people in your organization know about what you're doing, show them some good examples, and they'll start coming to you. Of course, the more use cases you have, the better. This would allow you to integrate more and more technologies, not only RPA as such. Usually RPA is considered as a tool or application which comes as another added layer on top of the user interface of your existing applications. But it's not only that. It can serve as a live medium to transmit data between systems within your organization that have no natural or not built-in APIs, or that they don't have any integration between themselves. So RPA serves a good purpose here to exchange this data between these systems. Take AI, for example. What you would have normally as a real project setup, AI would be a separate application. It's you have your model there trained with some historical data. You would like to feed it with some real-time data. What you can use your bot for is you can bring the input data to the attention of the AI, whatever that means, and then wait for the results of the model, take that result and process it further down the stream. You can imagine, for an example here, a web-based system where your users, your clients actually can input some data, a ticketing system, for example, say for some warranty claims or for some issue reporting. Your clients can upload some attachments, pictures or files or whatever, and then they expect something from your side as a decision to be made. So this decision, if you can train an AI model to take the decision, you can of course feed it with this data coming from your ticketing system, and based on the results that the AI is able to produce, you can serve your clients, whether you can answer with a positive or a negative feedback on whatever they are asking you to do for them. Another example here, you can, for example, integrate OCR within your RPA process. OCR is another technology that gained a lot of speed in the past years. It's definitely older than the RPA. A lot of companies are claiming to achieve very high accuracy on handwriting recognition. Whether that's really true or not, that's another story. Nowadays, they claim to achieve 98% of accuracy. Well, if you ask me, you need to. I would ask myself the question: am I okay with 98% of accuracy? If yes, then yeah, I can let it go, let it be integrated in my process. But then, if the data is very sensitive, like financial data, for example, it might be a bad idea to let the bot do the optical character recognition and rely on whatever result comes out of it. It might be just confusing or incorrect at the end of the day. So if you come across such a situation, then you need to consider probably implementing some digitally filled in template forms in PDF, for example, form. Then the built-in functionality for OCR in the RPA vendors can achieve 100% accuracy there. So that's very useful in terms of achieving zero errors in your process. Well, mentioning errors, I should come to the point where we should outline also some of the pitfalls that we see. Governance, we mentioned you need to define some framework around which you develop your code and so on, and documentation. But imagine you come to the situation where an organization already produced 100 bots, software robots. You would find yourself into big trouble if you would like to perform daily monitoring on these bots. Why I'm saying so, RPA vendors usually have something called a control room or a control center, where it's a admin panel where you can log in and check what the status of each of your bots. But they're good only when your bot is actually able to send some feedback. Means that it started, it either failed or ended with a success. But it's this panel cannot give you any information if the bot failed to start for some reason at all. I mean, you would not see anything being shown to your attention in this panel. So for this, you need to probably implement some specific tools or actions or steps, strategy there that will help you identify such situations, and that usually can be also automated as a separate process, mainly to serve the technical people performing some support operation and monitoring on your live bots. This strategy can also help you also build custom KPIs per bot. Imagine that you would like to know some technical statistics on your bots, where your bot spends the most time, or how often a simple piece or a simple bit of your process is being repeated by the bot. So probably this is a place where you can touch a little bit of it and optimize the performance just with a few milliseconds, but then at the end it will pile up, it will accumulate to some massive number of time as a performance gain. Or you can, for example, build a custom KPI on the data that is processed by the bot. You can for example, want to make analysis on your dependency to suppliers. You would like to know which supplier your bot is processing the most, more often, which operation of this processing consumes most time, so you know where to focus on when dealing with your suppliers. Another problem that I usually see with the customers is with the change management. It was also mentioned in one of the previous questions that we discussed. Change management is usually poor or virtually absent within the organizations. There's what you would normally see more often than not is that someone decides to do an upgrade of a system that's been used by a bot down the stream, and that upgrade usually breaks the bot, and your process is just your bot is unable to complete the process. You would always like to implement some strategy or some tool also additional, where you would keep track of all the systems your bots are depending on, so you can easily see which are your critical points. And you would also like to have your RPA delivery center as one of the stakeholders whenever an upgrade of a system is being considered or has been under discussion. So that's something that you should never underestimate, or you're risking failing bots all the time. Yeah, so just to sum it up, there is a growing community year by year. I see that the hype is just increasing over the days. And I see that most companies usually take the learn by doing approach, but that should not be something to scare you off. It's just the natural process of any new technology that looks for its place out in the world. Yeah.
Exactly, and also that's why you consult experts on that and help people basically setting up their processes. And yeah, so you're never alone in this if you reach out. Okay, so that being said, there's also a question, as I mentioned earlier, that asks about like strategies to implement an RPA process or an overall RPA strategy. And we would very much like to shed some light on that and how we would basically do that. And for that, we're going to show you let's say our best practice from our experience, what works, what usually avoids common mistakes, and what makes sure that there's a quality process that leads to the desired results. Take that with a grain of salt, though. That is very much dependent on where the organization or the business is in terms of maturity and RPA strategy when you implement new things. So when you start from scratch, you obviously start at the very beginning of this. But when we go further down the road and when there is already something established, some processes established, maybe some test cases already there, then the process, of course, would start a little further down the road. But to give you an overall picture of how it should be done start to finish, or how it can be done effectively from our experience in start to finish, I'll hand it over back to the guys to talk about exactly that, our methodology in that case. Take it away.
Thank you, David, again. So in this part, as I mentioned, Peter and I will explain you on how we proceed and how we help proceed execute this digitalization step. So in this part, of course, we will start, depending from businesses, if they have awareness or not about the subject, we start basically with the ABCs of the RPA, what it could bring as benefits, and help basically our customers during the journey of the RPA, of the process automation. So we basically, in terms of meetings, we make like a guide through and explain what it is, what type of process are relevant, and which might be automated or which might be even approved. And it's in small one-on-one session meetings, as I mentioned, that we present ourselves, we discuss what Adastra is, for those who don't know us, what our methodology are, and what the business goal is. When we basically get acquainted, we basically know each other a little bit more, and that helps narrow down what the objective, what the mindset is of a specific customer, and help us together to achieve the goals that are expected down the road. So once we have done this, let's say, introduction onto RPA, knowing each other, we basically go to the next step, which would be as basically to find a proof of concept in the next part, that helps identify how we should how bots should be implemented in the company. So basically, we find a suitable process that might be as proof of concept, a demo kind of sort, and that helps basically define and plan what the goals are behind the process, what is the general expectation of the customer and the business behind their processes. Also, depending on the processes and the business, we can also narrow down and define the necessary infrastructure. In some cases, we need bots that run independently on employees' machine, and in some other cases, we need processes that basically run in an orchestrated way. So once we define how a suitable process and the criteria and the way they should be executed, we can also define how the infrastructure, the environment for the bot should be. And once those points, let's say the ABCs for the proof of concept are defined, we can actually start developing this proof of concept and see together, once it's developed, how the customer is satisfied with that. If we went to the right direction, basically see the acceptance of the customer through the way we implemented that proof of concept. So once the proof of concept done, we basically understand and can go to the next step and understand the mindset and see, okay, which process are relevant to be automated. So we, as I said, in form of meetings, workshops, we again bring all the people together, all the people related to processes, and see, we make the process mining and define what kind of process are suitable. We check their feasibility. The feasibility is, as Merve mentioned, related to the type of the process, if they are structured, time consuming, if they are repetitive. So this all helps us to check if there are suitable processes, the feasibility also of them. And also another part of the visibility is to check the execution, the user, the interface of the system which the process is related to. So depending on the software systems that the bot has to access to be able to execute the process, we can also determine the feasibility. Sometimes some systems take a lot of time to load, and that highs a little bit the complexity of the execution of the bot. But this is also a part where we have to determine, to distinguish, to be able to know what exactly we need and how much effort we need. So basically through this, we make a list of the bots, of the process that can be automated. We see how they can be done, even optimized for some cases. And in a lot of cases, we ensure that basically the errors get to zero. There's really seldomly errors except if the bot for some reason, let's say machine is not working, as I mentioned earlier, then we have eventually a failure. But except for that, in most of the bots or automated processes, we basically escape that part. So once this defined and we estimate what can be automated, the cost behind that, and also how it could help the workflow, we can actually plan on the execution, how we will plan the whole project, how we will implement the whole part. So first of all, we, as I said, we'll make a list through the process mining of all the processes that are suitable to be automated. And through that, we can actually set more or less the infrastructure and the organization needed. For example, I know if a bot has to be run on personal computers, I mean on employees' computers, then we have a decentralized way. And then we also need that to split the responsibilities of each bot. Then the person who will execute manually the bot on his computer will be also responsible to be executing the process. And that's an important part, to set the responsibility, who will be responsible for the credential, how the bots will be executed. So we plan which bots have to, which process can be automated, how the responsibilities will be splitted, and through that we can prepare the environment in which the bots will be live and be executed. And once we establish and plan this whole part, of course, as in every kind of project, we can establish and estimate how much we would need, the effort needed, the cost needed, the pre-requirements needed, and of course, everything that is planned has to be documented, as I mentioned, in the business continuity. That will help for even for new employees to get directly in, to jump directly in, and not to have like this time to get used to it. So we have a documentation that helps to the IT readiness. And once we've defined everything, we can basically go to the next part, which would be to implement, to develop the whole code. And that I would lead the delivery part to my colleague, Peter.
Oh, thanks, Chiheb. Project delivery, yeah, it usually goes from the point after clearing all these planning aspects. You should also be ready with your infrastructure, although it's it's considered as part of the project delivery. It should be actually started at the very beginning, once you clear out which RPA vendor you're going to use, and after you acquire the licenses for that, you need to set up the infrastructure, of course, for that. You need to have all the credentials needed for the development in place. That usually is a bit tricky place. Business users struggle, business process owners struggle to understand why we need to onboard a robot for their department. But the idea there is simple. The robot is just another person that is going to work for their department. So you do need to have that in place. And once done, you can switch the focus to the pure development. That's where your developers create the code, test it, do the unit testing of the code. And then when they feel comfortable enough, they move it to the user acceptance testing. Moving on, we go to the point which becomes the most interesting in the whole project. I think it's the breathing life to the bot. And that's when you are setting it first to run in attended mode. Attended means that you are observing it, how it behaves, what it does. Once you are confident enough that it's doing what it is supposed to do, you just schedule it on a regular basis and find a runner machine where it is going to execute in unattended mode. That's your ultimate goal at the end of the day. You would like these bots to run somewhere unattended without the need of human attention. Yeah, right. Just that's where you start benefiting from the whole story. Of course, you cannot leave it just like that. You also need some hyper caring, babysitting as soon as you set it to unattended mode. That's usually defined with either with some amount of time or with a number of consecutive successful runs of that bot. And once that phase is over, you're ready to move on to the next phase, which is the normal one for any IT project. Actually, it's the support and monitoring. So you would like to keep an eye on your bots on a daily basis. Like mentioned before, once they become too many of them, you would find some difficulties getting the feeling that everything runs without an error. So you need to be cautious with that. You take care about your platform to be in good health, so you can add on more and more bots. But of course, support. There is no software application that goes without any bugs. So prepare to have such at any case. You just cannot define all the different little exceptions during the process analysis, during the development, during the user acceptance test. There is always a hidden portion of data that you would never come across during your testing phase, and it will just pop up at your productive environment. So you need to be prepared to have the proper support there. And support should never be underestimated, of course. Just as an example here, I've seen some live processes where you have some customer coming at your office, being a business of some kind. Your customer requests something from you, and on the other side of this request, there is a bot that needs to do some actions, and it needs to do it in real time in the next few minutes. And if the bot fails to run for some reason, it becomes a nightmare, because you know, you not only disappoint your clients, but your business users start to lose trust in your bot and your RPA project in general. And that's something you would like to avoid at any case, because their support is the most valuable one once you're starting your digital journey in your enterprise. So yeah.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much and Chiheb as well for walking us through our methodology here. And with that, we're at the close of our, let's say, of the scheduled input that we would like to give you guys. But that's not meaning that we're done yet. There's, of course, another time for asking more questions, and we've received some. So I think one of the questions that was asked here is, can you speak to the critical nature of quality assurance? So how critical is quality assurance in this overall process of RPA?
Yeah, I'll just continue on that topic. Yeah, QA, my understanding about this is it usually helps a lot in situations where you have lazy business users. Lazy in terms of defining test cases or test scenarios. And that's something that you get quite often, actually, because business users tend to be dedicated more to defining the process and getting the results as soon as possible. They know their process, but it's a bit hard for them to define all the different test cases, even the test scenario. They can just give you a brief overview of what they would like to be tested, but that's about it. You know, usually developers have just a limited vision of all the test cases, and that's where the creativity of a QA engineer usually comes handy. And yeah, that's a suitable place to have it. But of course, that's not everywhere. Sometimes it's a matter of budget. You cannot have it. It varies from client to client.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. I hope this was to answer the question here. Another question that we've received is basically, can you speak on basically a centralized versus a decentralized approach of establishing such a process?
Yes, I mean, I try to briefly mention it in my talk. So in the decentralized option, you enable your business users or process users with the right skills to automate their own businesses. So whether this is a better approach for you, or whether you should directly start with a center of excellence where you have separate roles as process analysts or developers, really depends on the processes that you have and how quickly you want to get your first results, and also the complexity of your processes. So it of course takes a bit more time to introduce the necessary skills to your employees and let them automate the processes later on. With a center of excellence, maybe you can get faster results, but on the other hand, you also need to get the structure of your center of excellence. So it is really dependent on the processes, on the priorities of the organizations, and also the scope of the project. So it depends whether your entire aim is to keep your project small and automate a couple of processes in order to cope with some emerging market situation, or whether it's the organization strategy for a longer term, whether you want to scale up your project in the long run. So it really depends on these factors to determine which approach suits your organization better.
Yeah, thanks for that. We received actually another question that has more to do with the governance aspect of RPA, which I think we also mentioned briefly in terms of being an important step of the whole business. So the question is there a good way to keep the bot running while underlying applications are basically changing? So this also speaks a bit to change management as well. So what are the critical points here to make sure that like changing environments don't interfere with the business?
Yeah, I also mentioned this part when I discussed the point for change management. Your RPA center has to be defined as a stakeholder when you are considering changes in the systems that you're automating. So yeah, you can achieve constant development also with RPA in place, but that should never be done without the consultancy of the RPA specialists there. What I mean, what you usually see is RPA is quite dependent on the interface controls that you see. Say a button or a text field of some kind. If you start shifting this around the screen, that probably would not be such a problem. But if you start deleting or adding new with different IDs, then that's what gonna cause some troubles in the future. And that's comes to mention that if the RPA consultants or RPA specialists are not part of the constant development process of your application, just as a consultancy, then you'll probably come to troubles with that.
Thanks for that. And I think that we're running out of time here shortly. So I would like to mention one more time, guys, that we are very much looking forward to your feedback. And of course, thank you everybody for attending this. Also, of course, to our panelists for giving us the input today, and to anybody who raised some questions here for discussing. I hope that we could answer the questions to your satisfaction. If you would, I'm going to share the link to the feedback right now in the chat. So if you guys would be so kind to walk us, basically go through that and share a bit of feedback for us and through that form, that would be very helpful. And if you need any further information on the topic, by all means, please connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with us through our websites, of course. And also, if you have specific questions, we have a specific email address set up for that, which would be rpa@adastragrp4group.com. So rpa@adastragrp.com for any RPA specific questions. You will find many opportunities to catch up with us, as I mentioned before, the website, LinkedIn. So there's no reason not to if you're interested. We're very much looking forward for you to staying in touch. And thank you once again for everybody that has been here and was attending and asked questions. Thank you once again to the panel. The feedback link is provided. Hopefully we get some results there. And I wish everybody a great rest of the day. Enjoy yourselves and see you around hopefully the next time. So bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.